Now, there's been all this propaganda saying that President Obama is not doing enough, even though he's already launched 2,400 airstrikes against ISIS. So when you look at the polls, they're not good numbers. 58% of Americans disapprove of how the Obama administration is dealing with the terrorist threat. Even 46% of Democrats disapprove, because we're told nonstop by our media the only answer is war. And, you know, we don't have ground troops in there yet. Kind of. We actually do have 3,000 ground troops in there, but not enough. More ground troops. 54% do not approve of his handling of terrorism in general. 57% disapprove of his handling of foreign affairs more broadly. These are all terrible numbers. This one's gratuitous. 60% disapprove of his handling of electronic security. So I know why, because of the Sony hack and all that stuff. But boy, they don't like security in any way. He didn't bomb North Korea enough. He didn't bomb Sony enough. Whatever he's got to do, he should bomb more. And 77% agreed with Obama's decision to ask Congress to authorize military response against ISIS. So an overwhelming majority agree with his decision, and they still say, not enough, give us more war, because war worked out great. The Iraq War led to ISIS, but we've learned no lessons whatsoever. So now Chris Matthews is going to jump on that bandwagon. Of course. Later, he will pretend that he was never for this war. Mark my words. Exactly what he did with Iraq. But for now, look at what he says.
How about this? Can we content ourselves by doing something which we know right now will not be enough to stop this horror? I know. We all know we need a plan. We need a route that takes us to destroying ISIS, because the alternative is too sick, too un-American, too unhuman. We can't see people killed like this in our face and simply flip to the sports page or the financial news or what's at the movies or who's going to win the Oscars and act like America, our country, is not being morally humiliated, because it is. And with the lives of at least some of these people who must in their last moments be wondering if there's any chance the people of the United States could be coming to their rescue, because that's how they were rightly taught we conduct ourselves. We don't leave people behind.
Okay, so now this is, of course, precisely what ISIS wants. Now, do you think ISIS can invade America? Of course not. They have no capacity to do that. Now, do you think they can come over here and kill Americans? Well, it would be very, very difficult. Maybe they could try, but what would be a lot easier is if we went to their backyard and made it a lot easier on them. Now, they already saw that happen with the Iraq War. They also saw it happen in the case of Hezbollah and Israel. Hezbollah dug in at one point in one of the wars that they had, and Israel couldn't root them out, so they had to send in ground troops. And when they did, a lot more Israeli troops died. Mission accomplished. It's a trap! Now, what ISIS can do is take some hostages and then kill them in gruesome, horrific ways that turns all of our stomachs. Now, why do you think they're doing that? You think they're stupid? Like, oh, this will intimidate the Americans. They won't come in. This will intimidate the Jordanians if we light one of their pilots on fire. No. They obviously realize that it'll enrage us and it'll draw us into the conflict. But they want to draw us into the conflict. Why? So that's where Alistair Crook comes into play. He's a former diplomat, former MI6. This guy knows exactly what he's talking about, and he explains, for example, on the issue of Jordan. He says, look, one of the reasons that they want us in is because there's a lot of people inside Jordan who sympathize with ISIS, who sympathize with radical Islam. So what they want to do is have Jordan overreact and then kill some of the people who are on the fence and have their families enraged and drag Jordan into a civil war. And here comes Jordan to help them along, and it'll play right into their hands. Same thing with us. The ultimate prophecy that ISIS believes in is that we are going to have Armageddon, and that, of course, as with all religious fundamentalists, including Christian fundamentalists, they think Armageddon's awesome, where almost everyone dies except them. Okay, now I don't think it's great. I think Christian and Muslim fundamentalists are insane. Okay, Jesus ain't coming back, nobody's coming back, all you're going to do is kill all of us. Anyway, so they think that resurrection is going to happen and that Armageddon is going to ensue and all this is going to be lovely when the Crusaders come to either Al-Amaq, which is apparently in southern Turkey, and or Dabiq, which is a village in Syria. It's written in one of the books, right? Now, how are they going to get the Crusaders to come to Dabiq? They're not going to get them to come to Turkey because Turkey is part of NATO. Turkey is already against ISIS. ISIS would have to go into Turkey. But ISIS is already in Syria. So all they got to do is get the Westerners to come to Dabiq. And then they just got to survive and say, we had 40 countries against us. We had the United States of America against us. We survived all those airstrikes. And right now they're not winning, but they're surviving. Then they tell all the other Muslims, we told you, it says in the books that they were going to come to Syria. You see that? We were right all along. We're fighting the Crusaders. Come help us. Come join us. And we're walking into that red wedding like we are totally and utterly clueless as to their intent. Their intent is clear. They say it all the time. But Chris Matthews and the Bill O'Reillys of the world and all these idiots on television like, oh, we are being morally humiliated. We have to do more war and more war. We're going to be stronger than them. Yeah, let's go to Dabiq. Okay, so Alistair Crook explains, for this prophecy to be actualized, ISIS needs the Crusader forces, i.e. American or coalition boots, to be on the ground and for these forces to be visibly defeated as proof of ISIS's divine guidance. Now, do I think that they're going to be defeated? No. Do I think a ton of people are going to die in the process? Yes. So ISIS is of course wrong. We're not going to have a resurrection. We're not going to have an Armageddon, and they're not going to win, okay? But they are going to kill a lot of Americans along the way. So why are we helping them to do that? Why are we walking willingly into their trap? Okay, now, when we come to the Jordanians, that trap is even worse. Remember, the pilot's name is Al-Kaseasbeh, and he was killed. So he explains here, the gruesome manner of Al-Kaseasbeh's death, of course, is classic revolutionary polarization strategy. Outrage authority and provoke it into a heavy-handed overreaction that is directed against ISIS sympathizers. And there are many in Jordan. And what were just sympathizers and will metamorphose from passivity into committed insurgents. Thus, ISIS has just ignited the internal sphere in Jordan. Now, if you're running an insurgency, unfortunately, that's brilliant. Jordan is in the middle of overreacting right now. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm just as angry as you are. When I see that guy burning alive, when I see the beheadings, I want to kill him too. I want to put on boots. I want to go there. I want to fight against these guys. These guys are the worst of the worst. But not for Christ's sake, for anybody's sake, we got to be smart about it. Why are we doing what they want us to do? Maybe we should fight them in a better way, a smarter way. More explanation as to what might happen in Jordan. In effect, Jordan has now entered a war with ISIS, whilst sharing the bed at home with thousands of Salafist jihadis, including Al-Qaeda, their branch which is on Nusra. Some may view Jordan's entry into the war as a potential catalyst for other Arab states to do the same. But it is just as likely that ISIS has effectively ignited these Jordanian contradictions, as well as lit the fuse of internal polarization. The coalition might well be encouraging Jordan down a path that may lead to mobilization of an internal jihadist uprising against the monarchy and to bringing ISIS closer to Israel. Now, most of the pundits here will think themselves great allies of Israel. Oh, we have to strike at these Muslim fundamentalists. We don't want them getting anywhere near Israel. You schmucks, if you start a civil war in Jordan and it spreads and you ignite that people who weren't necessarily going to act, who were passive in Jordan, but now because of the overreaction do act and do get into the middle of a war. And somehow, in unpredictable ways, ISIS wins there, as they have won in some parts in Syria and Iraq. Guess what Jordan's next to? Israel. You just helped ISIS get closer to Israel. Congratulations. Be smart. I don't know. Are we ever going to learn from history? Or are we going to do the same things over and over? Are we going to follow Chris Matthews and Bill O'Reillys of the world when they demanded war for Iraq and they got war? And out of that war rose ISIS. And now they demand more war, which is exactly what ISIS wants. Or are we finally going to wisen up and go, that is a stupid strategy that has not worked in the past. Let's come up with a smart one instead.